Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I am Violette Ayala, the founder of FemCity. And today, for our Monday motivation, we are going to talk about how to get through loneliness while growing your business or your brand. We know that a lot of our members are small business owners, but we also have some women in our community that are in the corporate world that are working remotely. And loneliness is definitely something that happens. We were talking in the green room before we went live. It is something that we have all experienced before. So if you are new at remote working or working from home or working while you're traveling or starting a business, there are definite aspects to being feeling very alone in the journey. So today we're going to talk about what you can do to get through the loneliness. I have asked these three beautiful and amazing women to join us today. They're from our FemCity Global program. Many of you may know them already. But if not, you'll get a chance to get to know them. And I encourage you to ask questions. So if you are watching us live, please feel free to ask questions. We are here collectively and collaboratively to make sure that we give you everything that we can to make it so that you're not so lonely. And if you're watching the replay, you can always ask any of us any questions. We are here for you. This is the best group of women I know, and we're all here cheering you on. So let's go ahead and dive in. Actually, I think we have some love already that came through. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning. Also, I don't know why it's not showing your beautiful picture and your smile, but good morning and thanks so much for joining us and giving us some love. Let's start with Delia. Delia, share like one or two sentences about who you are for those that don't know you. And then I wanted to talk to you or ask you, what are ways that we can get through being lonely while growing a business or remote working?
Right. So, hello, everyone. My name is Delia Rusu, and I am a life coach for children. In a nutshell, I teach children, kids and teens, how to become more confident. And I do this with stories and fun activities and crafts and things, games, so that children really learn this skills effortlessly, so they don't even realize that they're learning how to become more confident because it just seems so easy for them. So when I thought about loneliness, and I immediately connected this with my work for with teenage girls in particular, because they do many times feel lonely, and there's something that we can learn from that, and from what I talk with them as well, is pay attention to your, like, my top tip would really be to start with a mindset and paying attention to the words that you use around this. When you say, there's a big difference when you say I am lonely with I feel lonely. And I encourage really this change, which, because when we say I feel lonely, we have control. We're like, oh, I can do something about it. But when we say I am lonely, and this applies to a lot of labels that we put towards ourselves, when we say I am lonely, it's like, this is who I am, and there's not much I can do about it. Just my chance, just my fate, and whatnot. So, this simple change in wording can really make a big difference. And then yeah, go ahead, Violet. You wanted to?
No, I was gonna say, I love that you're starting with the words, because words do matter. And I know
So
some
much.
of our femmes are not connecting with that just yet, but the words really do matter with what you say to yourself. And I love that just changing that simple way, that simple sentence gives you power. And like you're saying, initiative and the opportunity to go ahead and change the way that you look, the outlook of where you are currently. So I think that's a brilliant first advice that we've received from this segment together. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then I always say, take responsibility. And sometimes, when I work with teenagers, and when I even say this to somebody, it sounds a bit harsh, like, what do you mean I'm lonely? This is just what's happening. What do you mean taking responsibility? But hear me out. When you change from that mindset, again, when you say that you feel instead of that you are, you will look for ways in which you can change that. And not only you will look for, but you'll see that things are coming to you, because this is how, our radar is on. When we focus on things, things come back to us. So you'll see that, all of a sudden there's an opportunity to join a group, or somebody just calls you out of nowhere, or a friend that you haven't talked in ages. They're like, hey, how are you doing? Let's get together. And all of a sudden you're not lonely anymore, just because you made the decision to change the way you think about it.
I love that. I love that. That's really good advice for teenagers also, which of course, I mean, that's the
Uh-huh.
world, but yeah, if there's time at the end, I'll share a little story about one of my kids going through
Mm.
something similar. So Emilah, what is your advice on ways we can go ahead and get through feeling a bit lonely, and also just share a little bit, like 2 sentences of who you are for those that don't know you? I think everyone knows the three of you, but just in case.
Sure. So my name's Emilah DeToro. I'm an ICF credential coach, an intuitive and energy healer, and I'm doing pet intuitive and healing work these days too. And I help millennials, Gen Xers, highly sensitive people, empaths, seekers, introverts, and their pets to navigate career, relationship, and health transitions. So I'm really niching a lot more than I have in the past. Like, really, if you're a sensitive person, let's work together. So, what I want, the question that came up for me around this was, what are you lonely for? What are you lonely for? So not only is there the first piece, like Delia talked about, like changing your mindset, like having some agency around it, but then what actually is it that you're lonely for? Are you lonely for those chats around the water cooler? Are you lonely for um, being in business with other people where you can talk about your business and how things are going? Are you lonely for lunches and visits and deeper relationships with friends or colleagues? Like, identify what it is you're lonely for, and then go take action to get that. So I'll give an example. For me, I really like just kind of being in coffee shops and in places where there are a lot of other people. And I like meeting friends there too, but I like places where I'm introverted, so I like being around people, but not always interacting with people, right? And so I rent an office that's right next to a coffee shop. And this is my second office in the second city that's right next to a coffee shop. And so I can pop over to that coffee shop at any time and be with people, or like in the vibe of other people, right? So that meets a need for me, which is different than the need that gets met for me when I schedule private lunches, one-on-one lunches with colleagues, right? Which I do a couple times a month. I'm like, I want to just go deep with a couple of people. And so we schedule a lunch and I do that. And then when I really want to get my social thing on, I go once a month to my local Albuquerque FemCity lunch or happy hour, right? That's uplifting, social. I get some good ideas about how to build my business. I find some people to collaborate with or chat with. So for me, what I'm lonely for is the big question, right?
Yeah.
And that drives my action, what it is I'm going to reach out to do, and how I'm going to meet that particular need for loneliness, not just the general, oh my God, I'm always in it alone.
I love
And
that.
I would say one other thing is, this time around in my business, I hired help, right? I have a VA. I have people that help me with my website, which I haven't done before. And it really reduces the sense of loneliness for me, because I'm not in it alone. I have collaborators.
Yeah.
And so that has met like a team, a need for a team.
Yeah.
Even though it stresses me sometimes financially, it's totally worth it in the way it meets my need for a team.
I love that.
Those are my first soft tips.
I love that. I'm a huge fan of like asking questions. I mean, I love those FemCity worksheets because if you ask the right question, the answer will show up. And sometimes we have to frame it in a way that opens up our energy versus closing it out. So I think that is such a beautiful way. What are you lonely for? It could be a snuggle with your dog. It could just be around the energy of people like you were mentioning. or maybe something more profound, right? So having that one-on-one conversation with people so you can dive a little bit deeper and have it not be so superficial. I love these tips. Excellent. All right, let's go to Michelle. Michelle, of course, facial recognition. I know, again, you know these three, but Michelle, for those that do not know who you are, share 1 or 2 sentences about you yourself, and then, of course, your advice.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Michelle Butt. I'm a facial intelligence expert, which means I help people use the face as a platform to connect deeper with themselves and other people. So, so my advice would be, I think, especially in the last 2 years, and depending on where you are in the world, that the loneliness came from being isolated kind of in our homes and only doing work online, and then feeling like the only reason we were connecting with people was for work. There wasn't as much of a social aspect. So for me, what I found is to make it feel like it's still like I'm not cheating on my work, is to have an accountability buddy that you really trust and resonate with. And then those sessions turn into not just holding you accountable to work when you're isolated and there's no one else working around you, so you don't get that energy of, oh, it's time to work, but also someone who you can open up to when you're frustrated or when you just need to tell your story to, because there's no one else to listen or no one else in your world who cares about your entrepreneurial space other than a colleague or someone you trust in that way. And for me, I have 2 people who meet different needs for me like that, because I have one who's in the States and I'm in Canada. So we get to connect and share in a way that I wouldn't have before 2020. And then one who's local, who I just got to see in person again recently after just doing this online. And that has really helped me stay connected to just being a colleague and being a friend, as opposed to just being, an entrepreneur. And I think that's a really important way to stave off loneliness in your business.
I love that. It goes back to like when I was little, I remember just like getting by middle school with just having those 1 or 2 friends. Like you don't need to have so many. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 people that you connect with. And I love that you mentioned the pandemic and you brought that up for conversation, because I was just talking to other moms this weekend. I remember my first time out after the pandemic. Well, I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but I remember my first time out of the house. We had an event to go to that required us to rent a hotel room. And I remember sitting in the hotel room and I'm not a big drinker at all. I got a bottle of wine with my hubby and I just had a sip of wine in a red Solo cup, just to picture it all together. And I sat there and cried of gratitude that I was out of the house and I was going back to what all 3 of you shared, just being in the presence with others in my own way. Like it wasn't in a big crowd. It was just like being kind of close to other people, even though they weren't in my space, but just knowing that people were around made me so grateful. Like I was just so happy as I sat there and cried of gratitude. I was like, this is so nice that I'm here and I'm able to like at least see people close by, because those beginning months and years were really rough on so many of us, especially those that I not that I feed off the energy of people, but I love having people in my life. Like I just feel like every time I meet someone, I just my soul just expands tremendously. So, all right. So we had some love that came through. Kim Murphy, what a great topic, great tips and advice. I know these are great tips and advice. I mean, in hindsight, I wish I had these at the beginning of the pandemic. Like I was definitely lonely at the beginning of the pandemic. That was the first time I had ever been so isolated. I know so many other people too. And I mean, my femmes got me through, right? So that they helped me through a lot. All right. So final advice, supplemental resources that you would recommend. Delia?
Final advice, it's gonna sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm just closing the circle on sometimes when our friends, people that we know are lonely, they don't reach out to say that they're lonely. They do not. They just feel that this is what it is. They don't want to burden other people with their problems. They don't want to reach out. They might think that everybody has it all, under control, and it's just them, that they feel so lonely. And, it's that feeling of, what's wrong with me? What do I need? Why is it? Everybody seems to just be handling everything so fine, even with the pandemic. Like, it's just added like another layer of sometimes feeling that everybody else was doing quite all right compared to me, that I was just feeling so lonely and so bad, and like other clients of mine as well. So if we know friends, acquaintances that we haven't heard in a while, let's reach out to them. Let's reach out and ask them, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in such a long time. Whether you can see them now in person or not, but just exchanging a text or a phone, or a video call or anything like that. And how's it going? And I really wanted to connect with you again. And because they might be just what they needed. Like, it's happened to me many times that I reach out to someone and we're like, oh, you can't believe, how you made my day, because I really needed that, but I didn't want to say anything because it felt like I would, make other people feel bad, or I just don't want to, some people just feel really, it's just hard for them to share that they're feeling lonely, right? So
I love that. Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent, especially for Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
So maybe for everyone that's watching, I don't, if you're watching the replay months from now, just reach out to 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
And Delia, you nailed it, because sometimes people will reach out to me and it makes you smile. It makes you smile when someone's like, just thinking of you. I mean, when it's like, just thinking of you, not like, buy from me. I'm thinking of you, buy from me. Click on this button. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole, that's like, oh my gosh, you don't want to add that anxiety, but just reaching out heart to heart makes a huge difference. Lenny Kravitz, my favorite, that, everybody just wants to be loved. And that's what it comes down to, is just if you can just send a little bit of love out there, it helps everyone. Love that. It makes you feel good too, right?
Yeah.
So, Emilah, final advice.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm playing around with right now is creating my own business mastermind. So not signing up for a fancy one, but just collecting a few people that I really know and trust, like Michelle was talking about, who we can talk to, we can talk to each other. Yeah. Maybe once a week we get together as a group, but we really rely on each other. So that, I think, building our own close network mastermind, especially, I find that many people that are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs in particular, maybe they're introverts, right? And they want that smaller group connection rather than the larger group connection. Yeah. So that's one way to do it. And the other question that you put put up for us to consider was, does it end? Right? Does the loneliness end? And I just wanted to say that my relationship to loneliness ended or changed, right? But loneliness still comes up. And we get to be more, get to have more agency around it. Yeah. So I'm lonely, I can do something about it, like Delia said earlier. So one of the things I'm doing about it is, looking at, let me create a small group of women, a mastermind business people that we're all about the same place. We can really support each other. And then the last piece is professional associations. Join some that are related to your field. I'm a member of the International Coach Federation. I go to our local events. I go to our virtual events. Find peers within your field and hang out with them.
Yeah, I love that.
So those are a couple more things that I think are final tips. They're like the next level, right? Once you learn to have a nice relationship with loneliness instead of pretending it doesn't exist or banishing it to the corner.
I love it. It reminds me of that movie, the Happy movie.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that because part of what they've discovered with people being happy is that people's happiness level increases when they're connected to something greater than themselves. Mm-hmm. So when you are part of FemCity Albuquerque, when you're part of a mastermind, when you're part of an association, like you were saying with Coaches Federation, like when you're a part, it actually does help to pull you out because you have, something to go to then be with other people that are also looking to hang out with other people as well.
Right. And sometimes there's social events, right? Our chapters have paint nights and things like that. So it doesn't always have to be business related. It can be just really personal and just fun.
Yeah. Love that. I belong to everything. Like if there's a club or a membership, I'm like, sign me up. I got there. So I'm like the queen of like, I have all these memberships. I'm like, I love it. Let's do it. I'll be there. All right, Michelle, your final advice.
Oh, well, thank you. Both of these ladies gave such good advice. And I think I'm just going to piggyback on that just to say, oftentimes when we are feeling a certain way, we think we have to change how we feel in order to then fit in with somebody else. And so my advice is to create what you need, and then other people will come. So whether, we have spaces to go like FemCity that we all love, and that's already established for us and it's really good. But sometimes if there's just something else that you need, then create it and create your own community, because like you were saying, Violet, when we do the thing that makes us happy, then we can serve others, and then they come and they feel really good. So, last year I created my Facebook community, and the responsibility and the reactions that I get and the people I get to interact with really helped to fix my lonely when it was lonely. And I know other femmes have done similar things, like Michelle Mahar created a positivity just space where she's like, post positive things. And that was what she needed. And so don't be afraid to give yourself what you need and then open it up to others, because you'll find then you're not alone in that need, right?
I love that. That's how I started FemCity. I started FemCity because I needed it in my life. And I was like, I'm just going to start it for 20 women. Because I was craving a sense of like, and there are great networking networking groups here in Miami. Many we partner up with. FemCity partners up with them. Chambers. I'm a fan of all that. But there was just something a little different that I was craving, and that's literally. And I started for myself, and then come to find that I ended up creating it for others too. So I love when you said, I was like, that was me.
Yeah, well, I did that too. I had a collab cafe here that was live, and then the pandemic stopped, and I was like, okay, well, I can't do this anymore. And after I got over myself, I was like, okay, well, let's do it online. Yeah. And, so we just have to sometimes just get over ourselves as well and just say, okay, let's
open up your heart, and be like, I need this in my life. And, it's going to be a little different, but whoever shows up. And they, and then all of a sudden you get, 10 people, 20 people. I mean, or two's fine too. Awesome. All right. So Delia, what's the best way for femmes to find you and connect with you?
The best way would be on Instagram, Delia Rusu Wisdom Coach. That's a great space for moms and for advice for their children as well. So for moms and for
awesome.
Women in general.
I follow you. You have great content for sure.
Thank you.
Emilah, where can they find you to connect and learn more?
Yeah, I'm all over the place on social media. I'm having a thing with LinkedIn right now. I'm posting for 30 days, doing a LinkedIn sprint. So I've got some really good content over there. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, blah, blah, blah. But my weekly email is where the juiciest stuff is available. So you can get that on my website, emilah.com, and sign up for the freebie for 5 tips to engaging your intuition and transforming your life. And you'll get on my mailing list, and you'll get the really depth conversations and explorations around intuition, psychic natures, coaching, sparketype, or whatever it is, pet healing, whatever I'm into that week. So yeah, my website's got most of it, but I just happen to be having a love affair with LinkedIn right now.
Love it. You'll have to share with us in the next Global Members gathering. Share what you find and how that love affair is going.
Okay.
Michelle, how can they find you and learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm just at face value with no E, and I'm there on Facebook as well. And if you want to join another community of women, we have the Prosperous Business Women Facebook group.
Love it.
We'd love to have you in.
I love it, love it, love it. Anyway, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing beautiful, practical, pragmatic advice that everyone can start doing today. Again, if you're watching the replay and you want to learn more, or if we didn't answer a question, or if you want us to do this again with another kind of angle, we're here to serve you. Just let us know. And if you've never tried FemCity, head over to FemCity.com. We've got a great 30-day free trial membership ready for you. And we'll see you girls back here next week. Mwah! Bye.
Bye.